And hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Point Blank Podcast. I'm your host, Dan.
And I'm your co-host, Dom.
An eventful weekend, Dom. A lot of things, of course, occurring. And I wanted to start with something actually positive this week. We've got a lot of stuff to discuss, as always. But Operation Raise the Colours. Really, really good stuff that I've started to see within the UK. And this obviously comes off the back of Birmingham Council stating that they were going to be ripping down Union Jack, St. George's flags and all of these kind of things.
Yeah.
And on the same day as Pakistani Independence Day. And now we're not going to go back into that as such, but I want to speak about the scenes that we've seen. We've got some video footage to share as well. But what are your thoughts on Operation Raise the Colours?
You're right. You know, we've gone so far left the field that our own national flag is a symbol of resistance now. And I think that's just a symptom of how far we've actually gone, that people are raising our national flag in defiance of the government.
That is absolutely, it is bonkers. It genuinely is bonkers when you actually put it that way.
Yeah.
Any other country in the world, the national flag is pride, and everyone can share that and fly it.
Yeah.
But in the UK, it's, especially the St. George's flag, it's certainly deemed to be an evil far-right flag these days.
Yeah, it has all these kind of weird connotations of all the different labels you can think of. But, you know, it's the resistance that I find quite interesting from the local councils, stating that they're safety hazards. But, you know, they're more than happy to fly the foreign flags of Palestine and obviously Pakistan and India with no sort of resistance to it. So obviously there's a bit of a hypocrisy in that. And, I encourage the viewers, if you want to be part of this movement, go onto Amazon, you can order the flags, get some duct tape or some zip ties and be a part of that movement. Let's flag every single street in the United Kingdom. I think this is the way.
Well, that's we're going to get into this video footage because people are certainly getting behind this movement. I'm seeing lots of Facebook posts of people buying mass amounts of St. George's flags, Union Jacks, and putting them up. And as I said, we're going to go to the video footage in a moment. But in the same week, we've seen Birmingham, pull down these flags. I actually sent an article stating that the councils were actually scared to bring down the Palestine flags within the same city, despite them bringing down the St. George's flag.
That's right. And I think it's a quite sinister undertone there because there's clearly a threat of violence from the people who are putting up the Palestine flags that the council simply don't have with the British patriots that are putting up the Union Jack and the St. George's. And the threat of violence there is the reason why they're scared. They're scared to go against the grain and, challenge these minority groups who are putting up other national flags. I don't know what your opinion on sort of being able to raise other flags in this country is. You could argue it's part of freedom of expression, but realistically, I believe the only flags that should be flown in the United Kingdom is the United Kingdom and the St. George's flag.
No, absolutely. I completely agree with that. There's in terms of state visits, I don't mind those. When like there's state visits where, I don't know, Trump visits and they decorate the Mall and it's like almost like a celebration or a coalition of the two countries. I don't mind that.
Yeah.
It's like kind of welcoming, but that's it. None of this sort of Palestine flags, none of this other sort of flags just flying about the country. But certainly, I promise you, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole again of Pakistan Independence Day again. But those scenes were pretty tragic, seeing that sort of stuff in there. But I just want to show you some of the video footage. And actually, this one was pretty hilarious. So these guys had been part of this Operation Raise the Colours. We're going on those little white roundabouts and turning it into a St. George's flag. Let's have a little watch of this.
Come on! Oh! What's he say? Hey?
Got to go over there and have a chat.
No.
So look at the support as well as he's doing it from all the people there. It's pretty cool to see.
It's brilliant, isn't it?
I seen the BBC headline. Of course, they weren't getting behind this sort of patriotism. They were saying the way they headlined this, it was like British roundabouts being defaced with graffiti, vandalized with the graffiti. There's obviously more stuff as well, some more video footage, and I can't share all of it. We'll be here all day about the sheer volume of people getting behind this movement. But I just figured I'd show you another video. There's another video of people just decorating the streets here as well.
Just to clear up any rumours that might go around, these ain't being taken down. We're putting them fucking higher. Yeah, get it as high as you can, lads. Fucking mint. Put one on the moon if we could. Well, the man on the moon's at the top of the road, so we could go up there. They're not coming down. We're getting these higher, right in the fucking flagmobile. We're getting them fucking higher because it's been taken down a couple of times. So they're going somewhere where people can't reach, and that is the end of that.
Oh, it's brilliant, isn't it? It's just vigilantism. I'm seeing these like rogue gangs of people with ladders and flags just going about all the lampposts in Birmingham and obviously other places as well, and just doing it off their own accord, off their own money. There's fundraisers for this as well. So guys, we're going to link one of the fundraisers down below if you wish to donate to the Raise the Colours GoFundMe. But yeah, it's great. It's great.
And as they're doing it, as I said, there are a lot of these people behind this have vowed that when the council bring them down, they're just going to continue to put them back up, as we've seen in that video there. But yeah, it's going to be a game of like whack-a-mole, I suppose. Yeah, across the UK, which is glorious. We're also on the same subject. I wanted to show you one of the British Patriots who had a bit of a confrontation with one of the council workers as he tried to remove these flags, this time in London. Have a little watch of this.
So who's asked you to do it? Council. Yeah, who's your boss that's asked you to do it? That's authorised you to go and do it? It's from the town hall. Yeah, what's his name? I'm not going to find that out quite easily. No, but I want you to tell me his name. So you're on the front line made to look like a complete and utter idiot. Right. Yeah, because if you're here, the whole of the Isle of Don has paid for these flags to be hung, for you to authorise them to be taken down. And then you're out here on the front line. I'm not going to argue. You can't argue, mate. You've tried to steal them. Officer, the rest of our flags that we have bought with our own working money, he has thrown in the bin. I want them back. That's theft because of your refusing to give back the flags. That's theft. They can be where they want. What about when all the Palestinians
Listen.
What?
So yeah, it's getting preheated with the council workers and the British Patriots. But what did you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, you know, you're going to have a lot of these sort of council workers, these jobs worth sort of being instructed. As he said, he kind of placed the blame on someone higher than him, which I think is a very weak response, you know.
Yeah.
You know, at least if he's going to do it, just say why he's doing it, because he doesn't want to see the British flag. But this is the case. We outnumber them 10 to 1, 100 to 1. Okay, so they can take them down all they like, but I guarantee you they'll go back up again.
Yeah, no, and it's great to see. And as I said, we have the duty to say here on the podcast, as long as it's peaceful, that's all that matters.
Exactly.
You know, yeah.
No one's getting hurt.
No one's getting hurt. But it also shows like the fact that people actually have to go out and put flags up. It actually shows that there's a lack of flags actually being flown in the country.
Yeah.
As I said, you've been to the US, haven't you?
I have, yeah.
Yeah. Everywhere. Every building is pretty much a United States flag. And to be fair, in other places in Europe, I do see it a lot as well. Even Germany, I see it in other sort of countries. Switzerland, another one. Flag is everywhere.
Yeah.
But in the UK, it's literally it's very scarce. It is very scarce.
And that was a big culture shock for me when I went to North Carolina, because I went to the sort of redneck area.
Yeah, well,
and every house, every establishment, they're all waving the American flag. They have a real combined ideology, this like group identity that they are American and they have American ideology. And when you remove that flag, you allow invasive ideologies to come to the island and take over. So this is defiance. This is putting our foot down. We want to see every street label with these flags, and we will not stop. They can take them down, but guess what? We're going to put them back up again.
Perfect. Now, on a moment where we've been talking about people that have been, I suppose you've seen council workers doing as they're told, I want to bring this video to the viewers of a police officer. Sergeant Kelly Palmer of Lincolnshire Police speaking out. And essentially says in this sort of whistleblowing video, she says the truth is that there is no such thing as real policing anymore, only cover-ups, box ticking, and protecting institutions instead of people. She basically said police officers themselves are now saying they fear for their lives. The system has turned into damage control, councils, social workers, judges, and senior officers covering up their own failures instead of protecting children and families. So I just want to show you this video, and then we can react to it afterwards. But yeah, have a watch of this.
I'm Sergeant Kelly Palmer. I'm in Lincolnshire Police. It's almost like watching, I describe it as Titanic. Like where we are now, it's like basically watching a ship go towards an iceberg and you can't do anything to stop it. So bottom level, there's absolutely no way I would join a force now for 27 grand and do what we're doing. Not a chance. If I could do my time, if I was starting now, I wouldn't join, basically. Because it consumes you. It literally consumes you. The amount of times my brother said to me, obviously they don't discuss like per se work with him, but he's like, Kelly, you need to calm down. You need to stop worrying about it. You end up thinking, I end up thinking every single day I'm going to get sacked. Everything is bum covering now. We're not policing anymore. We're arse covering constantly. And it just means that we don't do police work. All we do is basically we go to a job, we spend an hour doing paperwork afterwards, and then we go to the next job and we spend another. We don't police. We literally deal with everything else but policing. We're social workers. We're like counsellors. We're fire. We're everything. Then we're living in fear. Literally, we're living in fear of we'll do something a teeny tiny bit wrong. We can't be robust. I've seen so much body-worn footage with officers where when I first started, you could be robust with people, and I'm still robust because that's me. I'm not changing how I am, basically. Where officers are literally frightened of putting hands on, like saying anything to them because they're scared of complaints and scared of getting served papers, and we're living under that constantly. I'm going to be honest. There's a huge amount of officers now we have restricted within the force due to injury on duty. I mean, why would you come and be a cop? Like when you can go and work in my husband works for the Welsh government and earns the same amount as me. And he's got far less risk than I have. And it's like, so why would you? Why would you bother? Far less scrutiny, better working environment. I mean, agile working is something that police really need to look into. Why would you do it? Like, if you're a bin man, like, why would you come in? Like I said, if I was a new cop now, I wouldn't do it. I literally would be like, nope, not going to bother. I'm not going to live on the breadline, get 7 balls kicked out of me, get no support from within my ranks, outside my ranks, from the public. If I there's no way I'd join. I would just be like, nah, I'll go and work for a council, or I'll go and be a train driver and then 60k. Like, why would you put yourself on the street?
So yeah, thoughts on that?
Well, it's ironic the timing of this, because this comes after obviously the video we saw a week or two ago, where that police officer was instructed to put the leaflet through one of these sort of far right protests, these hotel protests, and she's absolutely spot on. Police are wasted. They're wasted. They're not actually policing crimes and solving these problems and preventing the crimes. They're just like a propaganda arm of the government, to cover their backs. They've completely been removed of all of their sort of powers, so they can't be rough with people that actually deserve it. They're scared of complaints, and it's just this kind of like overwhelming bureaucracy that lives above them that makes them scared to do their job properly. I think it's a shame. It's a shame. And, videos like this is bad because we need the police to be patriotic and to believe in the cause they're fighting for. And when they're put to good use, I think it probably is one of the best jobs, ever. Being able to solve crime, stop robberies, return possessions back to people, actually go after people who deserve to be go after, not just protesters who are scared about illegal immigrants. It's a massive shame that this is the state it is in now. I think it's only going to get worse as well, which obviously isn't ideal. But I think there needs to be major reform within the police academy because of how far sort of down the bureaucracy rabbit hole they've gone.
Yeah, well, it's one of those jobs that, yeah, as you say, people, join because they want to make a difference, right? And there's a rewarding job if you're doing things. Imagine, solving those sorts of crimes like a murder and stuff like that, being a part of something like bringing someone big down,
Yep.
that's caused a lot of harm in this world. It's a very rewarding job if, yeah, as you say, if they're used correctly. But are we seeing now, as I said, this is a space of a week now, 2 of these sort of videos. Obviously, one was direct, one was sort of indirect, kind of exposed on a ring bell. But are we starting to see maybe more police? Well, does this speak for the police force? A lot of the policemen that are currently in the force at the moment. Do you reckon this is speaking for a lot of them?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely spot on there, because remember what Kelly was talking about is being scared of being served the papers, being scared of getting fired. So there is this like overwhelming pressure on them that if they step out of line, they will lose their jobs. And the policeman is not the most, crazy paid job in the world.
Yeah.
She said, she was living on the breadline. And these people, they rely on these jobs. And some people, they've been in the force 15, 20 years. It's all they know. So yeah, I think you're right. I think there's a lot of people that feel the same way, especially, when that copper came round to give that poster, he was like, mate, this is bollocks, but I have to do it.
Yeah.
And he was laughing at him. Like, he was laughing with him. He was on his side. But guess what? If you get the marching orders, you don't get a choice in that situation. So I think she does speak for a lot of cops.
Could we see her lose her job for this video? Obviously,
Well,
it's gone massively viral.
If voicing your concerns about your job loses your job, then we live in a complete totalitarian state. I think that's absolutely ridiculous. People have the right to voice their...
Everyone complains about their job all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but it's like, I suppose if it goes viral, but you know what they're like, it'll make them look sort of bad, and it makes it look like the police are rogue and actually don't believe what they're enforcing, which the government want them to enforce.
Yeah.
So it's like a chink in the armor, so to speak.
Of course, it sort of it's narrative control. If she loses her job, it's narrative control.
Yeah.
Rather than solve the core issues that she's trying to bring to light, they're just solving the problem of her speaking up.
Yeah.
Which is like, it's completely pointless, because guess what? Another policeman is going to speak up, and then another one. And is everyone going to lose their job?
Yeah.
At a point in time where we need every single policeman that we can get, because the situation isn't brilliant for policemen. They're doing these bullshit jobs. They're just ideological warriors. They're narrative warriors. They're policing social media posts, not actually solving, hard crimes, criminals. Like, we need every policeman we can get. So if they're not addressing these causes, then they're just going to keep getting more people speaking up, and more people lose their jobs.
I've said it before in a recent podcast. The police, as you stated there, with their wages, they're working class people, and will probably share the same values as all of us, and as much of you watching this podcast itself. And the way it sometimes does, especially with these protests and actually policing this, the outrage that's happening outside these hotels, and they're forced to sort of intervene, they're forced to disperse these individuals, and it's almost like they're choosing a side. I feel like a UK civil war is brewing a little bit. And there might come a time where it feels like the police have chosen their side, and those police officers don't want to be on the wrong side of history, so to speak. And a lot of them now are probably coming out and saying, no, look, we don't want to be enforcing this. We're on the side of these people. We share their outrage. They're our friends. They're our family members that are there. But just because they're wearing a uniform, getting paid by the establishment, they're having to do things that they don't want to do.
Yeah. And I think, you're spot on with that assessment. I do feel like a civil war is brewing in the United Kingdom. It has all of the sort of traits and the hallmarks when you look back in history at civil wars. Now, it's not going to be like a, civil war in America where front lines, north v south. It's going to be these like disassociated factions within the UK. And it really makes me wonder what the purpose of the migrants in these hotels are. Are they sort of predicting this? Is this something they want?
Yeah.
And then they can utilize these people in these hotels to fight the government side? It'd be interesting to see what a civil war would actually look like, because, I've read a lot of comments from the viewers, and also, on Twitter as well. And a lot of Americans would say, we don't want to fight other people's wars, but, the United Kingdom, they would happily liberate.
Yeah.
Are we going to see, break off factions that are funded by the United States in terms of military. Like the possibilities are endless, and you actually just kind of like, you just use a standard thought pattern and just kind of extrapolate that a little bit. The possibilities are insane. But this is the hallmarks of it. I think we're at the very, very start of it. I say start, we're quite far into it. But I feel like it's only going to go in that direction if there's not major political changes.
You mentioned obviously the hotel's been speaking about the protest. You got a bit of information on the Bell Hotel, right?
That's correct, yeah. So the Bell Hotel, the owner of this hotel has been revealed to be a Muslim named Hassan Ali Karmail Al-Bihi Somani. I probably butchered his name there, but you can kind of guess what it is.
Yeah.
So he's obviously a Muslim who's bought this hotel. He's got this contract with the Home Office, and he's making absolutely absurd money. He's also got, I think there are conflicting reports here. There's some reports that say he owns 12 hotels. There's other reports that says he owns 5 hotels. Now, all 5 of these hotels are being used to house migrants.
Yeah.
So we are seeing Muslims within the UK buying these hotels and then getting contracts with the government. And it's even more sinister because Lloyds Bank has targeted to buy over 1,000 houses as well, with the idea of doing the same thing. It's completely sinister. And this isn't the only one that I found as well. Now, there was another hotel. So it was a migrant hotel baron named Goldfinger. Now, it's called Goldfinger because he has a gold-wrapped Tesla that he goes about Sussex coasting. So this man, he's called Sheikh Abi Guzla. He owns quite a few number of flash hotels. Some of them are migrant hotels as well. Now, he's actually facing trial because he defrauded a water firm out of £150,000. He's making over £60,000 a week off of these migrant hotels.
Wow.
So this is a common theme we're seeing. These aren't British people, British-born, British native people that are selling out these contracts for the hotels. They're all foreign-born. And this is the key point we raised previously, is that the issue with mass immigration is they're not ideologically aligned to the British culture and way of life. Now, majority of people I know would never take a contract from the government, no matter what money.
Oh, yeah.
And I've seen it in Ireland as well, where hotel owners would come out and blow the whistle because they've been approached by the Irish government saying how much money they could make. It's double what they're making. If they're making $15,000 a month off the hotel, the government would offer them 30. Now, when you don't have the same principles as a native born here, you would take that money like 10 times.
It's guaranteed because it's on like a 5-year contract. It's guaranteed about amounts of money, and actually, it's more profitable actually taking it from the government because they offer way more money than what they would if they were just renting out normally, and it's guaranteed over a set period of time. So it's like no work. It's like my hotel's full. It's like passive income. It's like it's done. But as you said, the principle is not there to say if it's a British person, like, no. Fuck that. I don't want that. I'm not putting my family and children in harm's way. But as you said, they don't have the same morals, the same values, and don't care for our traditions as much. And in fact, they're probably complicit and happy that this is the case.
Yeah, because they get to give free sort of accommodation to their sort of Muslim brothers,
and making a shit ton of money off the back of it.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
And it's even like the sort of maintenance costs of these hotels is all covered. And what they have at the end of these 5-year contracts is a clause in the contract that says the hotel will be refurbished as well. So not only are they getting 100% occupancy over 5 years, which if anyone knows business, like that would never happen in the free market.
Never.
They're also getting a free investment into their hotels. And that is the exact same thing that's happening with the houses as well. This is why Lloyds Bank is buying over 1,000 houses.
Yeah.
Because they know that they can get 100% occupancy at higher rates. And at the end of the contract, they get a massive like £20,000 or £30,000 grant in order to refurbish the house. So, it's really difficult to sort of go upstream here, but it all ends with the government.
Yeah.
It all ends because they're offering these contracts. And you know what? When people are morally inclined, or sort of they have sort of moral issues, and they don't care about the culture of the UK and also the local communities that are affected by these hotels, then this is what happens. You get people like Sheikh Abi Ghuzla, very British patriot here, selling his soul and selling the safety of his local community. Does he not feel shame? Does the Bell hotel owner not feel shame that young girls are being sexually assaulted because of his greed? It's ridiculous.
Well, yeah, he has no empathy about it. And with this 100% occupation rate over 5 years, it's free money, which will then put, he's a businessman, he owns multiple hotels, then he's going to buy another hotel, sell another contract. So he's getting super, super rich, but also destroying the country at the same time. And he's obviously complicit, but as you said, you upstream, the government are the most responsible for this. They're offering these lucrative deals that these people just can't, well, just won't turn down. Why would you? If you didn't care about the country, why would you turn that down?
Oh yeah, why would you? But when your idea, when you're sort of programmed and funded by this ideology of sort of an expansionist Islamic regime, where the sole purpose is to come here and sort of ideologically dominate the host country, which is ours, then this is perfect. You get paid, you make loads of money, you also get to bring in your Muslim brothers and sisters, mainly brothers, from, war-torn countries, Afghanistan, whatever. You get to replace the host nation, and they are your warriors now. They get to impose their sort of Islamic ideology onto the locals. It's complete treason, in my belief. We spoke about this the other day, actually. There has never been a time in history where the host country has paid for an invasion. We are paying people to come into our country and invade us.
Yeah.
It's just ludicrousy. It doesn't make any sense. And this will not stop until we stop the contracts.
Which shows no signs of slowing down. In fact, it seems like it's getting even worse. I'm seeing you see the sort of lone articles of the GB News or other articles talking about a family that had 2 children being evicted, and one of these individuals, an asylum seeker, was then housed into these houses. This is what we're seeing. We're seeing our own people being evicted. I can't remember her sort of marital status. I don't know if she was a single mother. I can't remember, but I remember it was two children that were staying there. They were evicted so this guy could stay in.
Oh yeah, and it was 5 of them, and they interviewed the guy who was living in this house. And he was shocked.
He said sorry, didn't he?
Yeah, he said sorry.
Apologise, yeah.
But what does he think? Does he think these houses just grow on trees?
Yeah.
We just think we have an unlimited supply of houses. No. We have people, the British people, that we should take care of. There's no hierarchy here. How is let's assume she's single. How is a single mother of 2, come beneath a random Afghanistan immigrant? Come here illegally, and his mere presence breaks the law.
Well, no, there was actually I've actually personally lived in that. I've got personal experience of something like that. Now, it's not as such as with a migrant and such, but the whole sort of housing system needs to be looked at and needs to be changed anyway, because, well, firstly, that's already alien as it is. But a personal experience of mine, right? So my mum and dad split up when I was 12, right? My father was in the military, and of course we had to leave this military housing. And my mum had, obviously, me and my brother, 2 kids, and she could not for the life of her get any sort of housing whatsoever. So they obviously had to go through the thing, but she was on the waiting list for years whilst this sort of divorce was going through, and it never appeared. But there was just more people just being put in front, and a lot of them actually weren't British. They were being put there, and this was back in 2010, 11 or something like that. But I seen it, and my mum was so frustrated. I remember just seeing, fearful that we were going to be on the streets at this time, because she just couldn't get anywhere. And obviously she was on her own, so she couldn't afford the crazy rates that were in Surrey at that time. But yeah, no, I've seen it firsthand, having a single mother with 2 children, and the way that they're treated. So there has to be a massive look at this system. But this has been failing for years and years and years, and still is even getting worse. And we're actually now seeing not British people being put in front, or other people being put in front, but asylum seekers that have illegally entered the country being put in front of, as we said, the 6,000 homeless veterans, single mothers that have maybe just come out of a divorce and need that helping hand, but they've got children to look after, and they are born in this country. Some have served this country, and these individuals are still getting the priority, which is absolutely insane. And if you said that in any other country, they probably wouldn't believe it, but we're seeing it firsthand in the United Kingdom, which is a shame.
It just reeks of this like two-tier system. And we have to be accountable for who's sort of in charge of accepting these, the different applications for council housing. Like, who are they? Are they foreign nationals as well? Are they predisposed to pick, foreign nationals over British citizens?
But it comes back down to the housing as well, right? So every house, someone's owning it. A landlord's owning a house, right? And you've just exposed one individual with the hotels, but this surely goes back to, even on the smaller scale of just not someone owning a hotel, but someone owning an actual house. And then these individuals being offered, I'm not in the property game, but I know a lot of people in the property game. And as you said, no one gets 100% occupancy rates in the property game. It's just unheard of. It's like, you play it, and sometimes you got to deal with someone. They have to come out, then you have to replace them. Your house could be empty for a little bit. You could have nightmare tenants, or you could have tenants that are just, whatever. But then the government come and go, you know what? He's got to pay off his mortgage. Here's 5 years guaranteed.
Yeah.
Forget about it. Here's the house. And this is happening across. And, with these individuals owning the house, and they're the ones, of course, that are going to be like, because this is guaranteed cash flowing.
Yeah. And we're really selling out our soul of our younger generation right now, because, we both worked in the UK when we were sort of 18 to 22. Like, there was no way I could buy a house then. Oh my God.
No, never.
When house prices are 10x the average wage, when you're struggling to get loans, when there's no real good job opportunities or careers, it feels like everything is against us. And, there might have been a time, if I was less fortunate, that I needed these social housing projects.
Yeah.
And I definitely wouldn't have been able to get on it, because they're putting these other people first. And it just feels like a complete, just betrayal of the younger generation. And this is how you radicalize people. When you put people in these horrible situations where they have no choice, they have to live with their parents, they want to stand on their own 2 feet, but house prices through the roof, they're not building any. The planning permission system is so slow, it can't account for the massive increase we're having, not only of native people, but obviously the immigrants that are coming over as well, the illegals. When the system is on the brink of collapse, this is how you radicalize people, because they will look for a scapegoat. And it has to be said that the unchecked, unverified people that are coming to this country, they're not providing anything to the economy. They're only taking these houses. They're only taking these hotels. And it's the tax money that these young British people are paying are funding that. That would radicalize me.
No, well, it probably actually has. But it has already happened. And we've already seen it happen. But, a lot of things documented on like the top echelons of life. So we've seen that the UK has the biggest millionaire exits over the last year. And we're seeing, like, whether you like or not, but, if you're a millionaire, self-made millionaire, you're probably at the higher echelons of life in terms of in the creative. You're probably the top 1% in terms of our creatives, our smartest people. You've took the initiative, created a company, you're creative, and you've made something of yourself and all these things. We have all of these people going out, but that's the only thing that's documented, which is a huge problem, because we're replacing them with, to put it politely, shit. Like we're replacing these individuals with shite from other countries, right? Not even the best in class from these other countries, just coming from whatnot. Our best people are gone, and then they're being replaced with this, who outbreed those people anyway. And we're seeing that sort of demographic change as well, and ideology change, religion change, etc., the country that made the country. But even, like, as you said, people our age are now looking elsewhere, who may not be in the millionaire status, but going, you know what, I can't even afford to live in the country anymore. They might just go get a remote work and, go pitch up somewhere else, like Thailand or something, and be like, right, I'm going to work here now because I can't afford a life in my own country anymore. So we're seeing it from the top down, that people are just looking for their exit from the UK, which is also a very, very worrying time.
You're right. Like, how many of these young people would have been millionaires if they stayed? How many job opportunities are now no longer there because the country's based in Dubai? Like, it's this complete knock-on effect. And, all we're seeing is like, oh, the GDP has rose 0.2% in the last 3 months. Like, who gives a fuck about GDP when you can't afford a house? So what's the most radical sort of policy that you would recommend to solve this problem?
What, with the housing?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's lots of different things. I mean, the energy bills are the highest in the whole of Europe, and arguably probably the world as well. So, it's hard to say, but I've seen a lot of people there saying you need to tax the rich, tax the rich out of existence. But that does not work. It doesn't work. Taxing, of course, the rich are naturally going to pay more tax anyway. That's just always going to happen. But if you're taking all these like creative people out and not being able to let them live within a country, then that's a huge problem. I know millionaires that are patriotic, very, very patriotic, and at principle, where a lot of their friends were fleeing to Dubai for this sort of 0% tax and whatnot, they were like, no, I'm staying, until they couldn't. They were like, it makes no sense anymore. I can't afford to stay here anymore. So how would I change it? Well, there's a lot of things that need to be reformed within the UK. Top down. What about you? What would you change?
Well, you'd have to start with the immigration problem.
That's a huge problem. You need to stop people actually coming in. Like there's a lot of highlighting on the illegal immigration. Yes, that needs to stop as well. But there has to be a sort of net negative of immigration for a while. And even then, when you start to let people in, you're looking at the best in class. You're going, right, who's going to contribute here? Oh, right, we'll take him because this job, I suppose, is scarce within the country. You can get I don't know, a brain surgeon, for example, but someone who's going to come into a real position and he's at the top of his game and is going to be able to contribute to the country. And you're really being picky on the individuals that you let in. So we're not just getting, again, I hate to describe a human being as this, I'm not in any way, but we don't want the shite from the bottom. We want the top people that are going to really make a change to the country.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think the fraud goes a lot deeper as well. I've even spoken to people on planes that said, to get a visa sponsored by a business, you have to pay £10,000. You just admitted fraud to me. And what's happening is a lot of these like businesses are creating visas or visa opportunities for people in their hometowns back in India and back in Pakistan. So there's massive fraud there. I know there's massive fraud within the education system. I've seen it firsthand because my mum used to work she was the head accountant in University of 92.
Gary Neville's base. That makes sense. Gary Neville, the man there as well.
I've got a bit of inside info on him, mate.
We might need that. Maybe save that for the Patreon. Coming soon. We're going to have exclusive episodes coming very, very soon here on the Point Blank Podcast.
That is true, yes. Q&As, live streams. We want to call you and get your, your thoughts on things and chat to you guys. But maybe I'll save that. But, I've seen massive fraud because what would happen is that people would pay for their first years, which would allow them to work, I think, maybe 16 hours a week. They'd work 100 hours a week, and then they wouldn't pay the education fee for the second year. And then suddenly they're an illegal immigrant, and then they have to report all these to the police.
Right.
There is absolutely massive fraud, and I know this because my mother was in charge of getting these fees from the students. And she would see firsthand the amount of foreign students who would not pay their second year. And then suddenly they're an illegal immigrant. They're off the grid. They're working these delivery jobs or takeaway jobs. And, there's so much fraud that happens. So that's obviously one thing. Obviously, we've talked about, the North Sea oil drilling. And the sort of the lack of capacity that we're at. We're importing nearly 500,000 barrels a day. And when we could, create maybe 15 or 20 more drills and become completely not only net independent, but we could actually be an exporter. This is the lie that we've been told. And this is the fraud that's happening on the British people is they want these energy bills high, because they're making more money. You definitely remove the levy on oil profits as well, which is one of the reasons why oil prices are still high, because what we're seeing is the price of the barrel of oil is actually the same as it was in like 2018. Prices are up 30%. Well, guess what? Because there's a 37% levy on profits. And the oil companies aren't going to, take that hit. it's going to be the consumer that takes that hit.
Yeah. No, energy prices could be, come down, right down if they wanted to. But it's all about that thing. If they wanted to, they don't want to.
No, they don't want
So yeah, it's one of those. I mean, the country needs a massive reform in general. A lot of the conversation we talk about is illegal immigration, but there's an awful lot of stuff that needs to be reformed. Also, the justice system. Ricky Jones. Now, I know we're a little bit late to this. It happened over the weekend. But I wanted to get your thoughts on it, Dom. Should we just quickly remind ourselves what Mr. Jones said
Let's have a
this
little look.
time last year?
They are disgusting, nasty bastards, and we need to cull their throats and get rid of them all. I just want to say thank you all. I'm going to leave it now. And free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Thank you. God bless you.
So yeah, did you think that he was going to be getting we said it on Friday's episode when the trial was going on. We said that I would be flabbergasted. I would be shocked totally and outraged if he got a suspended sentence. I was like, that would be like outroar. But I was like, that's probably what's going to happen to him. I didn't think that he was going to get anything less than that. I was like, a suspended sentence would be uproar, right? And the guy got not guilty and got let off scot-free. It's like, what are your thoughts on that?
It's a complete, miscarriage of the justice system. This is shambles. This is shambles. And look, they are setting the precedent for what we can now do, right?
Yeah.
So we can say to people, let's slit their throats, and we can go like this.
Yeah.
Is that what they're saying?
Basically.
Because we can say that now.
Basically, if you got ADHD as well, or racially bullied at school, then maybe you can get away with it. Of course, there's one rule for some and another rule for the others.
Yeah, and it's absolutely, it just boils my fucking blood.
Yeah.
For lack of a better expression.
Yeah.
I don't use profanity a lot, but it just boils my blood. How is this man who has clearly incited direct violence on counter-protesters? Bearing in mind the context of this is so interesting because this was in the midst of the Southport riots.
At the same time.
And the sinister tone of slicing their throats. This is the exact same rhetoric that was used, the exact same killings that were used in the Southport riots.
Yep. And those individuals were put away for a long time at the exact same time. So it was there. So whilst it's outrageous, of course, last summer that this actually happened, I wanted to put a point to you that came up, of course, following this sort of not guilty verdict. And essentially people were saying, well, do you remember the summer, of course, Lucy Connolly and all of these, loads of people, hundreds of people, they were basically incentivized to not have a trial. They were told to make a guilty plea and then be sentenced. So some people are saying, well, they made a guilty plea, so they admitted that they were guilty to those charges. And on the other hand, Ricky Jones went on a trial. And then again, if there was a judge and a jury, if Lucy Connolly, for example, went on a trial, she would have got the same verdict. So do you think that the individuals that were told to make a guilty plea, I'm not saying that, but would you say it's their responsibility as such?
Yeah, I actually would go a step further. I would say that they were probably given bad legal counsel in the counsel wanting them to plead guilty. I'll go out and say that on record. I don't think any of them should be pleading guilty to these sort of hate crimes that they're admitted to. Because what we know now is that if any of these actually go to trial, and some of them did go to trial, some of them did go not guilty. Yeah, and I believe they won their cases. So this sets the precedent. If you do get, jailed or any sort of legal action in terms of social media posts, do not plead guilty. This is key. We need to go through the court system. We need to back it up as long as they can, because this is why they were sort of coerced into pleading guilty. Is because that they wanted these cases to go quickly and they wanted them headlines.
Yeah.
Lucy Connolly would probably be still on sort of reprimand, sort of in a pre-trial state because of what she said. So it's complete a shocker. Well, it's not really a shocker, but they really wanted them to plead guilty for that reason.
So why do you think it's down to so I don't know. I'm not too clued up with it, but do you reckon they all would have had lawyers And surely if you had a good lawyer, they would have told you you need to go on trial and do this. Well, I don't really know the ins and outs of Lucy Connolly as such, or these others that made a guilty plea, but do you reckon they had good legal advice from people?
Well, when you can't afford your own lawyer, you get appointed a sort of public defender,
Yeah.
which is completely different as getting your own lawyer. If I know this for a fact, if you get your own lawyer and you plea your case, and you get a good lawyer as well, they will defend your case.
Yeah.
But they don't have the same incentive to sort of fight for their clients when they're a public defender. Now that is maybe a bit of a sweeping statement, but we've seen it firsthand. Any person who wants to prove their client innocent would not say take the guilty plea when the data is clear as day.
So do you reckon it was like there is a class war as such? Ricky Jones obviously more middle/upper as a Labour councillor.
Yeah.
And then of course some of the individuals we've seen, they probably came from a lot of working class backgrounds. So it was a sake of class as such.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Obviously this would look bad for Labour as well if Ricky was found guilty. So it was in Labour's interest for him to be found innocent. And, I think it is a class war because people, these lower working class people, cannot afford 10, 15, 20,000 pounds for a good lawyer to prove their innocence.
Yeah.
So yeah, they were told the wrong thing. Another thing they were told is that if they pleaded guilty, they would get a reduced sentence. This is not what happened. They were given the maximum sentences. That is unprecedented. To get 2.5 years for a social media post that she deleted and she sort of took back when the police came to her house 3 hours later. She apologized for it. So, there is no leeway there. And they were given the maximum sentences, which I think is just horrific.
Yeah. No, well, if there's something that's good that's come out of this, which there's not, is I suppose people know what to do going forward now. Yeah, you don't plead guilty to such things. I always look at Lucy's in particular, and we spoke about it a lot here on the channel, that, what she did did not incite violence. There was no sort of victim as such. There was no date. There was no time. There was no hotel.
Yeah.
It was just a sort of throwaway comment, if you like. But yeah, her pleading guilty to that probably, made an issue with it.
They sent her down the river. And, this is what Ant Middleton said after Ricky's not guilty verdict. He says, on the 13th September, I will ask something of the British public. British patriots that I would never ask of if I weren't willing to lead the charge. If certain individuals can ask for our throats to be slit with zero accountability or repercussions, then that allows us free rein to defend ourselves in such a manner that will rattle foreign hostiles and our government to the very core. Choose a side because this is ultimately what it has come down to. See you on the 13th of September and prepare your shields. And that's absolutely right. They have set the precedent now. And we will use that precedent against them. And one other thing as well, which I think is key in the Ricky case, is the judge of the case. Now, have you heard of this?
No.
Okay, well, this is extremely interesting. So, the judge of the case in the Labour councillor Ricky Jones's case is also a diversity and community relations judge.
Ah, great.
Which is a voluntary outreach role focusing on promoting diversity. This is Judge Rosa Dean. To be honest, when you lay it out like that, I'll show you a picture of her.
Yeah.
This is what she looks like.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It's a complete political stitch-up. And let's be honest, he's probably never going to prison, was he?
No, never going to prison. I said it's weird because I didn't think that they would be so stupid to give a not guilty. You know what I mean? I didn't think that was going to be that stupid. I didn't think it was going to be that clear.
Yeah.
That's why I was saying that on that Friday. I was like, yes, it's scandalous if it's a suspended sentence.
Yeah.
I thought that was the bare minimum. I thought he was going to get, as I said, I always check this one in every week, but the same as that nonce Hugh Edwards, a suspended sentence, and that was going to be unforgivable. That was going to be outrage in itself.
Oh yeah.
But I didn't think that the establishment would go that low, and try and think that they could get away with such a thing.
Mm-hmm. And the jury was done in 30 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, because any freaking person, Again, I just like to say this to you, and I like to say, me and you are both not snowflakes. You know what Ricky Jones said? I'm not really that offended by personally. Like, whatever, right? And to be fair, I think you should be able to. I think it's a really dangerous road to go down when you start, imprisoning people for that. But the outrage comes from me is that, as we keep on saying, they set the precedent with the people, Lucy Connolly, etc., that they had to. Like, so if that was the case and he did something worse that was also caught on camera, then he would have to, in my eyes, get a worse sentence.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's, as I said, keep on saying, it's a dangerous road to go down where you start punishing people and imprisoning people for their words. I think that it dampens on freedom of speech, and again with sort of Lucy's thing, but they set the precedent. So they have to follow through with every single individual across the board, no matter your skin color, your religion, and your political standpoint. But it's clear as day that there is a two-tier justice system in the country.
And it's on full show there, isn't it? You know, there cannot be a more blatant example of this two-tier system, this two-tier care that we've been talking about. And, so which line are we going to follow, Are we going to follow the precedent they set with the Lucy Connolly and the Peter Lynch? Or are we going to follow the precedent of Ricky Jones?
Yeah.
Like, which one do we follow? So if I go onto a street, if I'm in front of a massive group of people waving British flags and I go...
With influence as well.
Yeah. And like literally a physical in-person call to action, let's slit their throats. And I go like this. Am I going to face jail time? I would probably, in this case, in the sort of state of the UK today, I would probably expect to go to jail.
Yeah.
But, this guy can get away with it.
But now you've learned that you can get away with such things.
Well, yeah, like let's do it. I'm not,
Have you got ADHD or not?
Oh, I was bullied really bad in school, Dan, and, I just had a hard life. I stubbed my toe last week as well.
We'll let you off then for sure, 100%.
Appreciate it.
Easy, that's the easy way, but yeah, you're absolutely right. It's a double-edged sword, isn't it? It really is. Even looking at it, because you see the case of Lucy and then you see the case of Ricky, and you've seen that you can be in prison for something, but then you can get away with it if you go to trial. So again, I think it's done a lot more harm for the Labour government. Actually, I think if they wanted to really impose their totalitarian, the way that they want to be, then they should have used him as a sacrificial lamb and went, you know what? He's going down the river. So yeah, you cannot do this, but it's done the opposite now.
Yeah.
Because you can see that you can get away with it. So I don't think that the whole thing is worked out in their favour, actually, to be perfectly honest with you. Saving their own. I don't think it's worked.
No. And it will only get
done the opposite. Moving on to the Trump meeting. Of course, there was the one with Putin, of course, in Alaska, but there was the sort of round table with the sort of leaders. I want you to give us a bit of a roundup on what happened, but Keir Starmer on the world stage, just want to share this video with him. This is our leader. He had his moment. It's 2 minutes on the world stage in front of all the leaders, the whole world watching. And can you tell me what he says for this 2 minutes? I'm sorry to put you through this, but if I had to watch it, everyone else is going to have to watch it. But this is Keir Starmer's golden moment on the world stage.
Mr. Prime Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and thank you for hosting us here. Can I start where Emmanuel started, which is we all want peace. The war in Ukraine has had a huge impact, particularly on the Ukrainians who've borne the brunt of it, but it's also had an impact on Europe and on the United Kingdom. There's not a family or community that hasn't been affected. And when we talk about security, we're talking about the security not just of Ukraine, we're talking about the security of Europe and the United Kingdom as well, which is why this is such an important issue. I think this is such an important meeting. As a group, I think we've had a discussion on the phone a number of times, Mr. President, but be able now to be around the table to take it forward. And I really feel that we can, I think, with the right approach this afternoon, make real progress, particularly on the security guarantees, and your indication of security guarantees of some sort of Article 5 style guarantees fits with what we've been doing with the Coalition of the Willing, which we started some months ago, bringing countries together and showing that we were prepared to step up to the plate when it came to security. With you coming alongside, the US alongside what we've already developed, I think we could take a really important step forward today. A historic step, actually, could come out of this meeting in terms of security for Ukraine and security in Europe. I also feel that
we can make real progress towards a just and lasting outcome. Obviously, that has to involve Ukraine, and a trilateral meeting seems the sensible next step. So thank you for being prepared to take that forward, because I think if we can ensure that that is the progress out of this meeting, both security guarantees and some sort of progress on trilateral meeting of some sort to bring some of the difficult issues to a head, then I think today will be seen as a very important day in recent years in relation to a conflict which has gone on for 3 and a bit years, and so far nobody's been able to bring it to this point. So I thank you for that.
Well, thank you very much. And, you know, it's very interesting because this is the first for the White House. You can't say that very often. It's seen a lot over the years, since 18.
I'm sorry, what was he going on about? It was a bag of ale. What was he actually, did you get anything from that? The whole 2.5 minutes?
Well, apart from, listening to him stumble over his own words and trying to formulate a sentence together, no, I didn't really get much.
I didn't get anything, but do you know what's interesting? Because now it's like the third time I've watched that back, is just looking at people's body reactions that were in the room, like the people at the back, JD Vance.
Yeah.
The other ones, and I feel like when people are like really, you've been stuck in a room with someone really boring, you're kind of like fidgeting about, like trying to get like, you're just like, look at the, is that Melanie over there? She's like, playing around with her hair, like everyone just looking so bored. That guy could put you to sleep, and he put me to sleep, to be fair. But yeah.
Well, what he's talking about there, the sort of Article 5 security measures, I mean, what he's really wanting to do is put British personnel in Ukraine. Now, there was an article a couple of days ago saying that British armed forces are ready to move into Ukraine within days once a ceasefire is agreed. That will provide the sort of security guarantees that he's talking about there, which basically is like a deterrent for the Russian forces. Don't come through. We got the British people there. I'm sure the US and a lot of European troops will be involved in that as well. And it's interesting because from the meeting from Putin and Trump, they were very aligned on what they wanted. I think there was only one thing that they couldn't agree on. Yeah. Now, there's not really a lot of reports on what that one thing was, but I think from my judgment, it probably would be something to do with the sort of mineral split.
Yeah.
Because the place in which Russia occupies is quite mineral rich. So are they sort of bargaining over their minerals? It's hard to say. And, I just think it's bollocks what Stan was saying there, because tell you what, we were very close to a peace agreement a couple months after the war. But Boris Johnson was the key factor in continuing this war on. He made the calls to continue this war and to stop Russian and Ukrainian peace. So, the British government is responsible for the longevity of this war.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it's interesting. Obviously, this is what we want to see, though. We want to see Trump bring the people to the table and get this war sorted. Is what he said he was going to do. Obviously, he said it within 24 hours it'll be done.
Yeah.
It's taken 6 months, but, it's better late than never.
Well, he's at least doing something that others haven't. He's ending quite a lot of things, isn't he? But you're saying that Germany came through and said that they wanted a ceasefire.
That's correct. Yeah.
But the US, of course, and everyone else is kind of pushing towards the actual peace deal fully.
That's right. Yeah. So Trump kind of hit back on the German chancellor. I don't even know his name.
Yeah.
But he doesn't seem very a good representation of the German people, because what he's wanting is a ceasefire. Well, that's just a temporary measure in a war.
Yeah.
So he doesn't want the war to end.
Yeah.
What Trump wants is a permanent peace deal with security guarantees. And also what he wants to do is start mining some of these materials and minerals in Ukraine in order to get the money back for the weapons they've sent.
Yeah.
So this is part of his deal,
Yeah.
So yeah, the Germans want the ceasefire, but that's not really Trump's style. Now, in the 6 wars that he's brought peace to, we're talking about Azerbaijan, obviously the Israel situation, the Congo as well, these are like 30-year wars that we're talking about. He has brought peace deals, lasting peace deals, not a ceasefire, peace deals.
Well, that's what you want, surely. So do you reckon there's a motive as to why Germany want a ceasefire, or a European motive as to why they want a ceasefire rather than a peace deal?
Well, it doesn't really make any sense from an outsider's perspective, right? Because a ceasefire doesn't guarantee peace. And, Germany are kind of in the firing line. Obviously Poland, they've got Poland in between Ukraine and them. But surely they want peace for the security of their nation. Now, if there was some sort of external influence, we're talking about a sort of military-industrial complex that's lobbying governments in order to maintain the war.
Yeah.
That would, because the thing is, when wars stop, these sort of,
defense
contracts, they all go to bollocks, and then the stock price plummets. So it's in the sort, like Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, I don't really know the names of the German ones, but you've got the British ones as well. I forgot the name. But these, it's all in their, it's in their
best interest.
But this is the point, Dan. It's in their best interest to continue this war because they know that they make money off war. Now, Julian Assange said this maybe 10 or 15 years ago. He said, the goal is not a winning war. The goal is an everlasting war. And this is how the military-industrial complex siphons the tax base out of countries into private corporations to line their pockets. And I think this is what we're seeing from the German Chancellor's perspective on the situation. He wants this war to continue because I'm assuming here, but I'm assuming there's some other sort of influence.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know what the UK are necessarily pushing for. I'm sure they want an everlasting peace or whatever. At least that comes out of Keir Starmer's mouth. But when we were speaking about when Zelensky was paraded around the whole of the UK, Starmer was talking about the great benefits of what the UK would be getting from, supporting Ukraine and the military. Is like the British people will be creating the ammunition, and that's more jobs and more money in the pocket of everyday British people. It's like, what are you trying to do here? Yeah. But they don't want to be complicit in war. They just, there's a lack of jobs, I suppose. But my goodness me, you want peace between Russia and Ukraine. You want peace between the people. As I say every time, it's young people our age that are dying and getting life-changing injuries. And he's talking about that as almost like a flex of what the UK's involvement.
Yeah, we make the bullets they shoot each other with, This is good. This is good for our people. No, they're fucking killing each other.
Yeah,
they're dying. They're literally sacrificing their youth. They're sacrificial generation. They're sacrificing the youth, the flower of Ukraine and Russia as well.
Yeah.
And remember, it takes two to tango here, The amount of stress this has caused Ukrainians in the mobilization laws as well.
Yeah.
People are scared. People have not left their home for years, literally years. I was speaking to one chap over here who had to climb over the mountains in the middle of winter and escape to Romania just to avoid the draft.
Yeah.
This is the stress that this country has been put under. And he's flexing like, oh, we make the bullets. We make the guns.
Yeah.
This is good.
This is good for British people, good for money in your pocket, which tells it as it is, I suppose. So are we going to be getting another round of talks, or what's the next stage, I suppose, between Mr. Putin and Trump and Zelensky? Is there going to be a time where all three of them are going to be in the same room together, or at least the big two?
Yeah, I feel like really the next stage is between Trump and Zelensky.
Yeah.
Now we know obviously Zelensky's opposition to ending the war because we know that there'll be a general election right after. They don't allow elections to take place under war.
Yeah.
We know Zelensky's probably going to get kicked out, and he wants to maintain power. If he wants to, be the ruler of the dust.
Yeah.
He doesn't mind, the constant killing of his people and the destruction of his infrastructure, as long as he's in charge, right?
Yeah.
So, I don't know, it's going to be a tough one. Zelensky, all the cards are against him right now because he owes billions and billions to all of these countries. Now, a lot of these weapons were given as grants, right? But the amount of money that has been given by the US specifically, I think it's over 150 billion.
Yeah.
Which again just lines the pockets of.
Very almost like written off though by the previous regime in the other government. And obviously Trump wants to get that dosh back.
Yeah. I think that's important. So he's going to have to give a lot of the rights to mine the minerals there. This is going to be the big point of contention here. who is going to be in charge of their mineral rights. Obviously, we're going to have to put troops in Ukraine to enforce the security.
How do you feel about British troops being on the ground?
We got to pay for it. You know, we got to pay for the guns. We got to pay for the bullets. You know, we got to use our forces to secure a country that we have no relation to, that's not included in NATO.
When our country's not even secure.
No, exactly.
Which our military could be patrolling our borders to make sure no one invades the country.
Oh, yeah. No, but it's right. If it's government sanctioned, you know, it's fine, right? Honestly.
It's one of those. Moving on to 4chan, social media site, fined by the government. Do you want to explain to the viewers and I what has happened?
Yes. So 4chan, a US-based company out of Delaware, it's kind of synonymous for this like anonymous threads posting kind of forum. You get a lot of like conspiracies on there, sort of 18+ content. Now, they are refusing to bend the knee against the UK Home Office and specifically the Ofcom regulator in charge of setting these rules, which we still don't know who it is.
Yeah.
But this maskless person has fined 4chan £20,000 plus daily charges if they do not cooperate. Now, 4chan has got in contact with a few lawyers, and I will read what the lawyers have said.
Yeah.
So this is a statement regarding Ofcom's reported provisional notice to 4chan. According to press reports, the UK Home Office of Communications, which is Ofcom, has issued a provisional notice under the Online Safety Act alleging a contravention by 4chan and indicating an intention to impose a penalty of £20,000 plus daily penalties thereafter. 4chan is a United States company incorporated in Delaware with no establishment, assets, or operations in the United Kingdom. Any attempts to impose or enforce a penalty against 4chan will be resisted in US federal court. American businesses do not surrender their First Amendment rights because a foreign bureaucrat sends them an email. Under settled principles of US law, American courts will not enforce foreign penal fines or censorship codes. If necessary, we will seek appropriate relief in US federal court to confirm these principles. United States federal authorities have been briefed on this matter. Prime Minister Keir Starmer was reportedly warned by the White House to cease targeting Americans with US censorship codes. Despite these warnings, Ofcom continues its illegal campaign of harassment against American technology firms. A political solution to this matter is urgently required, and that solution must come from the highest levels of American government. We call on the Trump administration to invoke all diplomatic and legal levers available to the United States to protect American companies from extraterritorial censorship mandates. Our client reserves all rights.
There you go. I mean, it was going to happen. This was going to happen. And it's good to see. I mean, whilst I've never heard of this social media site personally, but it's, I mean, credit more to them because they're a smaller company as such. You know, the other ones, I suppose, could afford the fines if they went against it. But yeah, credit to it. And yeah, the US will get involved. I'm very much sure about that. We've kind of seen murmurs. We've heard murmurs. We've seen the exposés done over the last couple of weeks that they will get involved if the American companies are being targeted.
Exactly. And we've seen American politicians come to the UK government to lobby for this. And this is an absolute overreach of our sort of media onslaught. This censorship campaign that the UK is now embarking on the whole globe, which is really cool. Now, we obviously back the Americans in this situation. You know, we want this. This is what we want. We want the Americans to stand up to our oppressive regime. We want this influence because this tie of American and UK, legislation and this sort of tie of our communities. This foreign policy that this will make issues with, you know. We want to keep this relationship strong, and things like this will only weaken and dampen it. And if anyone's going to put political pressure on Keir Starmer, it's going to be Donald Trump.
Of course, and I hope it actually happens. But yeah, credit to 4chan, by the way. Keeping on social media companies, a little bit of a twist, I suppose. Andrew Tate, of course, looking to sue Meta and TikTok.
That is correct. So we know obviously the the harassment that the Tate brothers has been under. It's this sort of liable, this twist of the public narrative claiming he's a human trafficker. Yet he was found guilty of all, innocent. My bad. He was found innocent of all charges. Now, it's a pretty long one. I'm only going to say the main bits here. So 2 federal lawsuits are filed on behalf of Andrew Tate against Meta Platforms, including and TikTok as well. They're based in Los Angeles. The suit alleged defamation, civil conspiracy, and that also includes tortious interference, accusing both tech giants of publishing false, reckless, and inflammatory statements that portrayed Andrew Tate as a sex trafficker without evidence, without trial, and without due process. Now, it goes on to say their sort of strategic counteroffensive against the industrial scale of defamation. They talk about how good the lawyers they've got, and it talks about obviously both Meta and TikTok issued public statement in 2022 when they banned Tate from their platforms. Now, this is the sort of core of the case. Tate was banned because they falsely accused him of being a human trafficker and also other criminal behavior. Yet now we know that isn't true. But because they had public statements against Tate claiming these horrible facts against him, this is why Andrew is now going back after them and using this lawfare to clear his name.
Credit to him. I mean, like, I absolutely hate that thing. It goes with everything, you know. A lot of people are like, with Tate in particular, you know, I still hear it to this day that he's a human trafficker without ever being convicted of such. And it's really, as you said, it does cause defamation by just branding. You can be accused of something, and then people then, instead of using the accused of this, they actually brand you as that, despite you maybe not have already appeared in court. And then when you have your day in court, you're innocent until proven guilty, right? He was proven not guilty, and still carries the burden of this to this day, that he's a human trafficker despite never being charged of being a human trafficker. The thing is, Dom, I could literally accuse you now of being a human trafficker. It doesn't take much to accuse an individual of something. I can accuse you of something, being a thief. I can accuse you of this. I can accuse you of that. It doesn't make you that. But, you know, that's the you know, where they've kind of gone down, is it ruins people's lives and can ruin people's lives. We've seen it with countless people, you know, in loads of different situations. Russell Brand, I suppose, being the latest, and we don't know, of course, you know, there's a trial going on, and we'll suppose find out, but already he's being deemed as this and this, that, when he's not been proven guilty.
Yeah, and it's a weird case because it was like 20 years later.
Yeah.
And this is what we're seeing. We're seeing this pushback of this kind of woke leftist cancel culture that's really kind of plagued social media. And it was really at its height in kind of between 2021 and 2.
Yeah.
I feel like X being bought by Elon Musk opened the floodgates to that. We saw how ex-employees had a direct communication to the US government, and the US government was pressuring Twitter to sort of delete posts and delete certain social media profiles as well. We saw things like Robert Malone, who is the creator of the mRNA vaccine that the COVID vaccine was based on. He came out in defiance of the mandatory vaccines, and he got banned for spreading misinformation.
Yeah.
We're talking about the guy who created the bloody tech, literally the biotech, and which was rolled out to millions of people worldwide. He came out against it, you know. So more power to Tate here. This is important. We need to really stop this guilty before innocent sort of public trial that these companies are imposing on innocent civilians.
No, it's horrible. And there's a lot of stuff that he's lost. He's probably lost a lot of business with having his Meta taken down as well. He's had a lot of business taken, a lot of money lost probably from his companies based on those claims, and Meta enforcing these blocks and all of these kind of things. I don't know. I think I've seen the Tate brothers back on Instagram, but I don't know if they made a new account or whatnot, but they're certainly on there now anyway. But it's a massive detriment towards it, especially when you can basically convict someone without them going to trial and being proved guilty, which is always shocking to see.
And it's massive public defamation. And it wasn't just the social media platforms they were banned from. They were banned from Visa, MasterCard, debanked. I think Revolut still owes Tristan Tate, which is Andrew's brother, like a couple £100,000 that they've locked in an account. You know, this is complete. It's like a censorship arm of the government.
The way he tells the story is one day he woke up and said all these emails come through at the same time. It's like, you've been cancelled, the account has been taken off, all the way from sort of Stripe to Spotify, and he was like even talking about like really weird things, like you've been banned from like Disney Plus and stuff like that. And do you know what I mean? Yeah. So yeah, it's one of those. Have you got anything else to say, or is that us for the show?
There is one video that I want to have a little watch of. Now, this comes from Spain, and it is a video of a migrant. I think he is from Sudan. Oh, sorry, he's from Morocco.
Yeah.
And he went into a church and he smashed the place up with a sledgehammer.
Wow.
So this suspect has been arrested for smashing up a church with a sledgehammer before setting fire to the place. He's a 21-year-old suspect, obviously suspected of arson, and also broke a stained glass window with a hammer at the church of Santiago Apostol in El Prusiol.
Yeah.
So we'll have a little look of this.
Madre mía. Madre mía, madre mía, madre mía, madre mía. Madre de Dios. La calidad aquí.
And as you can see, there's massive damage to the church. Obviously, the smoke is still bellowing from the fire he started. Would you ever go into a Muslim majority country and start smashing up the mosques?
I would not, Dom. I wouldn't. I don't think anyone would they? But even like if that happened in that same country, or was that Spain, did you say?
Spain.
Yeah, if that happened and there was a mosque, there'd be pure far more outrage from that. That's the problem. And that's what the disrespect of Christianity gets currently within Europe. I've seen it time and time again that there would be a double standard if it was something else, especially in our country. God forbid if you ever did something like that. But yeah, the trashing and the burning of a church would not cause as much outrage as the trashing and the burning of a mosque. Mainstream media wise, the people, etc., they would see that more as a worse thing, despite them just being two religions. And the country that is the UK, Spain for that example, are Christian nations, you know?
Yeah.
So,
you're right, and I think the media would always spin it as like a sort of hate crime, but it's never a hate crime against the Christian.
It can't be with the Christianity for some reason. I don't know why. It's probably one of the most disrespected religions out there. You can disrespect it as much as you want, Christianity, but that probably goes down to some people who's not, I suppose, being outraged as much by it. That could be one thing, but of course, I feel like the authorities, the establishment allows that disrespect to occur, which is also problematic.
Yeah, you're right, and I think I think this if this isn't sort of properly spun by the media, I think again we're looking at a sort of two-tier media, portion of this country.
Well, it happens a lot, and it certainly happens in Spain as well. I've seen it with those the brawls that were happening between the sort of Moroccans, North African migrants, and the Spanish locals. When they were having these brawls and things, it was the North African migrants that were starting. They were going around beating random Spanish locals, and the mainstream media and the government were shaming the Spanish locals instead of those individuals, which is completely outrageous. So we've seen it happen in Spain, but we've also seen it with our own country. This is a European problem actually as well, but of course we focus here on the UK mostly. But yeah. I think that's probably it for today in terms of the episode. Sorry for no episode yesterday as such. We're back to normal rhythm as normal. But guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Do let me know your thoughts, or let us know your thoughts and opinions down there in the comment section below. Hit the like, hit the subscribe button and all that jazz. Dom, any final words?
Thank you guys for listening. Again, support has been unbelievable. Me and Dan are working on a lot of stuff right now in the back. Behind the scenes, and yeah, we can't wait. We've got some big announcements on the way, so yeah, definitely stay tuned. Let us know what you think down in the comment section below, and yeah, we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Take care. Bye.